pause and rest, to have time to just check in and see and learn and observe and know even a fraction of what's going on internally and deep, deep down on body and soul levels. And so to that end, if anything I say does not work for you, you just absolutely discard it. I'm just the tour guide. I'm giving some options. I'm going to give variations for things. But if what we're doing today is contraindicated medically in any way for you, or just doesn't feel right, please choose something else. So as you're gathering your props, a couple of announcements from the Institute, and then we'll get started, seated in the chair. You can also sit propped on the floor if you prefer. For Jewish clergy, educators, and other Jewish professionals, our course called Flourish with Yael Shai and Rabbi Miriam Margles begins soon, January 14th. Please check that out. All these links are here now, and they'll be here again after class, so you don't have to worry. We're having a 3-session unit, so fortunately, with Rabbi Angela Buckdahl of Central Synagogue, who's a member of our IJS community, part of our Chevraya, our clergy alumni from the clergy cohort. She's doing a 3-part session on understanding anti-Semitism. And that will begin on January 16th. So do check that out. And lastly, the Peaceful Parent Project, 6 sessions with our partners at Orot to help parents bring mindfulness, compassion, and Jewish wisdom into their own parenting. That'll begin January 22nd. If it applies to you, check it out. If you know others who are not here now who would benefit from this, please send that link on to them. Okay, let's get started, my friends. So take a seat. Ground those sitting bones. Tall spine. Today is the 6th of Tevet. And here we are, the cycle turning 2025 beginning. Bereshit, the book of Bereshit ending. We'll talk about the final portion. Lots of endings, beginnings, overlapping. Maybe some of same are happening in your own body or in your own world. Feel your breath coming and going. Let's just begin with a few sighs, inhaling through the nose and exhaling, dropping the jaw, making sound. 2 more times like this, inhaling through the nose. Any amount of sound you want to release, complete exhale. And one more time. Just beginning to let go anything that you don't need and coming into this space. Let's begin with some easy shoulder rolls. Inhale, bring the shoulders up, and exhale, squeeze those shoulder blades toward each other and then just let them settle down the back. Inhaling, the shoulders up, and exhaling back and down. Nice and slow, a couple of times like this. Diving right into your breath and into sensations, noticing what you feel. And seeing if you can release any judgment about what might be going on in your body. And then pausing. Let's turn to the side so you can see me. And we're going to take some arching and curling, cat and cow. So as we inhale, rolling to the front of the sitting bones, open the chest, squeeze those shoulder blades toward each other, and even take the gaze up. And as you exhale, rolling to the back of the sitting bones, letting the mid-back just dome back, making a C curve with the spine. Inhaling, lifting, arching. You can move the elbows, slide them back along your thighs. Exhaling, curling, extend the palms forward. Just let this come in your own time, syncing breath with movement. That's the most important part. Keeping breath and movement flowing smoothly creates a certain ease, or you could say a certain shalom bayit, literally peace in the house. But I could call it integration of self even, just through this little action. Time or two more, let it happen in your own breath, your own time. You never have to follow me precisely. You can always stay longer or leave earlier in anything we're undertaking here. Coming back to neutral, and then just taking a little twist to each side. Inhale tall, exhale to one side. Inhale tall through center, exhale side. Inhale center, exhale twist, feel the rib cage move. Inhaling center and exhaling side. Great. Coming back to center, bring the right arm across the body and you can hold it with the left. I like to sometimes just bend the elbow here, right around the other arm and pull, or you can use your hand. Either way, starting to open up the back of that right shoulder. And then release, take the other side. Just notice any sensations that build around the shoulder blade, under the shoulder blade, between the shoulder blades. And then come on back. We're going to take eagle arms, which is crossing arms over each other like this. That may not work for everyone. So one suggestion I have is you could just do the same thing over that we just did, or you can extend palms forward and round the upper back and pull the shoulder blades apart. Just do a couple reps of that. Kind of does the same thing. If you're joining me with eagle arms, the right arm comes on top of the left, cross at the elbows, and then cross the forearms, palms come together, and then begin to make circles with the elbows. You can just take whichever direction comes intuitively first. Notice how that is. And then the other direction. And then bring the elbows up and down a little bit. And just notice the nuances of sensation as you move in these tiny little subtle incremental ways. And then release. Just pause for a moment. Notice how you feel throughout your shoulder girdle and torso. Even at the jaw hinge, throat, and base of the skull. And then take the other side, crossing left over right. And again, finding palms. And remember again, this one is great, or this one. So you do you. And then making little circles, as if there were a paintbrush on the end of your elbow. Keep the breath moving slowly, smoothly. Other direction. And then elbows up and down. Wonderful. Release. Lastly, we're going to take a little back bend on the chair. Or if you're seated to the floor, you take the hands behind you. So hands to the back of the chair. I have one of these chairs where the back is missing. So if you have something like that, you could extend your arms through even, right? So somewhere behind you. We're opening the fronts of the shoulders, externally rotating the upper arm bones and lifting as you ground your sitting bones. Let me start again. As you ground your sitting bones, sending them down, lift your heart up. And from the center, right from your sternum, your heart, the center of your heart, lift up like there's a string and a helium balloon lifting you up towards the sky. So it's the grounding of the sitting bones plus the lift of the sternum. And then you can decide what to do with the head. You can tuck the chin, or you can extend the crown of the head back, but we want to make sure that there's length through the neck. And then come on up. And take any counter movement that you'd like. Just going to share a few words of teaching, and then we'll continue with our practice for today. So, as I said, we're finishing the final portion of Bereshit, the book of Genesis. The portion is Vayechi. And the portion begins, Vayechi, and he lived, and Jacob lived, but it's really about the death of Jacob and then later the death of Joseph. Torah has done this before, like the portion called Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah. It starts with the death of our matriarch. The themes here are of Shalom Bayit, the family coming back together in peace, of bestowing blessing, and of integration of family, or as we talk about in our embodied practice sometimes, integration of parts of ourselves, right? Drawing from the language of internal family systems, bringing the parts together in conversation. So Jacob, having made the journey down to Egypt from Beersheba as God instructed him, he wants to see Joseph before he dies, and he prepares all his children around him. He gathers them together. He blesses them, the sons and also the grandsons, Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. He says, I didn't expect to see you, my children, again in my lifetime. And here again, I get even to see your children, my grandchildren. And he says, please don't bury me here in Egypt. Bring my bones home to Marat HaMachpelah, where my family is all buried. And then we get through to the end of Joseph's life. Jacob has lived to 147. Joseph lives to 110. And the brothers are all afraid. They come together. They're all afraid that he's going to seek retribution. But what does he say to them? He says, Al tira'u. And he says it twice, actually. Don't be afraid. Al tira'u. Have no fear. Am I a substitute for God, Joseph says to his brothers? Besides, although you intended me harm, God intended it for good, this whole unfolding between us, so as to bring about the present result, the survival of many people. And so, fear not, I will sustain you and your children. Thus he reassured them, says the translation. He reassured them, speaking kindly to them. The Hebrew says actually, and he comforted them, and he spoke to their hearts. Vayinachem otam, vayedaber al libam, and he spoke to their hearts. So I'm thinking about opening up, making healing, making blessing, making integration, opening from fear to love, and this idea of vayedaber al libam, being heart forward, lifting the heart. So we're going to engage in some back bending, backward extension today. So our message is here, In order to create shalom bayit in the body, peace in the body between all the parts of ourselves, physically, emotionally, psychically, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Speak to your heart. And secondly, this is a quote from Rabbi Mark Margolius in a past teaching that he wrote on Vayechi. This week of Vayechi presents each of us with an opportunity to notice the divisions within ourselves, any lack of harmony, within our families and communities and within our world. As we become more aware of the fault lines generated by the energy of din, of judgment, perhaps we can pause and breathe chesed, breathe kindness into the resulting cracks and fissures. So that's our practice today, to make some shalom bayit, some evenness, to notice any divisions and any judgment in places within our own bodies. And as always, we start on the mat, we bring our practice out to the world. So if you'll join me in standing. Find a nice mountain pose with wide legs. Inhale the arms out in front of you, and then exhale, sweep them around the body and bring them behind. If it's available to you, clasp hands and send your knuckles away. Really ground those feet. Keep a slight bend on the knee, lengthen the tailbone. As you inhale, squeeze those shoulder blades toward each other and speak to your heart by lifting it up. And then as you exhale, fold at the hip crease and fold forward. Extending those knuckles up toward the ceiling. Few breaths here. Really fill the torso, fill the rib cage. Let the breath dance within you. On your next inhale, press the feet to the floor, lift up, extend up, and even send the heart up toward the ceiling. Exhale, release the hands, bring them back forward and down. And before you go anywhere, just pause and notice how you feel. Just quietly, no fidgeting. Feel mountain pose. Notice any reverberations of the pose we just did through your body. The next thing we're going to do is a little bit of a quadriceps hip flexor stretch. You can take hold of the chair or a wall or table, sofa, anything for balance. Bend one knee, take hold of the top of the foot or the ankle, whatever feels best for you, and you're just going to draw the foot in. If that's not available to you, no problem. You just bend your knee, take it to the chair. You'll still get wonderful benefits and good stretch on your quads and hip flexors. And you can start to draw the leg further back to give yourself a little more if you wish. So if there's any knee problems with flexion or anything like that, you'll do it that way. If you're holding the foot, press the foot into your hand, and you can even think of pressing that hip point a little bit forward, starting to open through the shoulder, through the top of the thigh. Keep the knees drawn toward the midline. You don't want to splay. And release, and take the other side. So it's here, or it's on the chair. Remember, that's like that. And just dropping in to feel what you feel. You want to go to your edge and have a certain amount of intensity, but not too much that you hurt yourself. Right? So there's a sense of al tira'u, don't be afraid to really enter into a juicy stretch. But that feeling of vayidaber al libam, let your heart, your inner sensing, your kinesthetic sense, right, guide you. And then release and just pause and notice. If you are at a chair, turn around, take your palms behind you and face forward at the top of the chair and take mountain pose this way. So it helps to open across the chest. And the chair helps by drawing your upper arm bones back in space and helping to widen the collarbones. Wonderful antidote to sitting and working at the computer. So if you're a person who's at your desk a lot, remember to get up every couple of hours and just do this one. It's really a nice one. And then release. We're going to take a high lunge. You can use the chair, you could use a wall, you could use whatever you have, or you may not need anything for help with stability, but take one leg back, doesn't matter which one. And make it just an easy high lunge here. Let that back knee really kind of drop down. Pelvis is heavy, it's even. What we're working on here, again, is that amount of sensation that you're drawing up through the hip flexor and through the quad, through the thigh. Send the heel back. So it doesn't need to be huge. It might still be morning for you. The benefit, if you are using the chair, is help with lifting the torso into length and widening across the collarbones. And then step forward, switch sides. So really find that center line here, the length of the tailbone, the torso. And see what your body needs on the second side. And then step forward. We're going to take it down to the floor. You can use either the chair or a block on either side. We're going to take a low lunge. 1 foot forward, 1 knee back. Again, doesn't matter which. You may want some cushioning for your knee. If you do, you'll just put that blanket down. So you could be here with your 2 blocks. What I'm getting here from this is a lot of length and lift again for the spine. Or you could be here on the chair, gives you a little more height. Draw the navel toward the spine. Feel also that there's a bit of lift. This is subtle, but a bit of lift to the pelvic floor. Notice how that engages you a little more through hip flexor, through the quad. And then when you're ready, you can just switch sides. So Jacob's blessings to his children are a little bit of a mixed bag if you read them all through. But in general, this idea of blessing one another is an art that, if you're not a clergy person, it's somewhat lost on us these days. And so we're all capable of doing it, right? We don't need the high priest only to bestow blessing. We can bestow blessing in a formal way on ourselves and on each other. And each time that we come to the mat, we can really take it in that way, that we're blessing our own selves for this day, for this week. We need it. And then when you're ready, release. We're going to come onto the belly, prone. If you tend to have low back discomfort or issues, one thing you can do is fold the blanket and have it under your hips, which will reduce the arch in your low back. And that blanket can go just right under your hip points. So that can be a nice thing to do if your low back in general doesn't do so well or today is not feeling very good. So coming onto the belly, make a pillow for your hands, for your forehead with your hands, placing your forehead on, stacking your hands and placing your forehead down. While you're here, tuck the right toes, and then press the heel back, which lifts the whole leg off the floor. The shin, the knee, the whole thigh, all the way up to the hip. Really press that heel back, and imagine that you're drawing the femur bone, the thigh bone, away from the hip. You're lengthening the leg. And then lay the knee back down, untuck the toes, untuck the foot, and notice any difference in feeling between right leg and left. And then do the same on the left. Tuck the left toes. Send the heel back. Engage the leg, which lifts the knee off the floor, the thigh. And feel that lengthening of the thigh bone away from the hip, kind of unjamming that area. And then release. Bring the knee down, untuck the toes. Just notice how the legs feel. Good. Then, lightly draw the navel toward the spine and lightly draw the pelvic floor up. So you're engaging the core in a very gentle manner. Bend the right knee, point through the right toes, and send those toes toward the ceiling. Keep that engagement through the torso. And then switch left. So it's a bit of a flutter kick, right? But with just bending one knee and then the other knee. Right? But the legs are attached to the torso. Again, navel toward the spine and pelvic floor drawing up. If you want to make this a little bit harder, I'm drawing from Pilates for anyone who's a Pilates person. You're going to press up and do the same activity. Little bit more intense here. And real lengthening through the lower back. Okay, so either way. And then release. Good, and then just shift the hips a little bit side to side. Just rock a little side to side. Massage the upper thighs. Take any pressure off the low back. Good. We're going to lift and lower 5 times, taking hands at the sides of the chest. Draw the elbows in toward the rib cage. Shoulder blades sliding down the back. Inhale, lift the head, shoulders off the floor, and exhale, lower down. Again, keeping engagement of the navel in, the pelvic floor drawing up 5 times. So here's number 3, inhaling up. Very little pressure into the hands. Exhaling down. 4. Engaging those paraspinal muscles. And 5. Good. Release, bend both knees, and take the feet in little circles. Again, gives a massage for the thighs, for the knees, and gives some ease to the low back. And then circle the other direction. legs back down to the floor. I'm going to come up to Sphinx pose. So you might just take it quite gently. The forearms are here by your sides, and you're just drawing the upper body away from the floor. So you might be just right here nice and low, or bring the hands forward nice and low, or maybe you'll come into what's traditionally known as Sphinx here. Forearms are parallel, the elbows are directly below the shoulders, the palms are down with the fingers spread. And there's the idea that the collarbones are broad, and you could sort of pull the chest through. If there were a string on the sternum, the chest is pulling forward. Lengthen the tailbone. Breathe here. And then lower down. Good. Press into the hands, or find a way to come up. You can draw your chair closer if you have it. Now we're going to move into camel pose. So you might, again, want some cushioning for your knees. A little more. You may want to put the shins down on the blanket. Also, if this is tough on your ankles, that amount of flexion, put the blanket under your knees so that your ankles come off the blanket. It'll just raise up the ankles and reduce the angle. At the ankle. Okay, so you're facing the chair. Depending on your chair, like my chair hits kind of right at the top of the thighs. First, just take the hands and press them down, draw the shoulders back, and as your lower body and your shins are going down, your upper body's moving up. And just feel that for starters. And then take your hands forward on the chair. The chair hopefully is really anchoring thighs and hip points, and you're beginning to lift up and away. So when we come into backward extension, we don't just want to throw the hips forward and just work on going back to reach our ankles. That's going to give us a lot of stress, undue stress in the low back. The whole thing is based on the lifting. If you think of a beautiful archway in architecture, it has to be even throughout the arch. So that's what we're looking for, is from the tailbone all the way up, finding length. Okay, so hands to the chair, lengthening the tailbone, lifting the heart to just come back a little bit. Just come and go a couple of times. Be as effortless as you can with it. It helps me to coordinate my breath by taking an inhale as I lift up and back, and an exhale when I come out of it. Okay, so you might stick with this, just an easy sort of opening and lift. If you want to come more fully into the pose, a couple different options. Could take the blocks on the highest level so that we come back and reach the blocks. Or you could use your chair, it gives you a little more height. And some of you might reach your ankles very easily, but I just want to give a lot of options. You could take the chair behind you and come into camel this way, right? So just choose what you need for props here as you come in. Let's take a moment first to just sit back onto the heels, if that's available to you. Just lengthen out the thighs and lift the spine tall. If this does not work for you, you can sit in the chair, and then you don't have that same flexion of the knee. Long, smooth, steady breaths. Super, super duper. Okay. Vayidaber al libam, speak to the heart. Al tira'u, don't be afraid. So let's just start by hands to the low back, as if you were placing your hands into your jeans pockets. Draw the buttock flesh down the body. Draw the elbows toward each other. And already just see how that lifts the upper chest like a platter. Nice and wide. So grounding the thighs, inhale, lift up, and begin to come back. Good. And then exhale, come on up again. Good. Inhale, lift up, come on back, and then see if you want to go a little deeper. Maybe the hands to the blocks. Good. And once you're in, you can see what you want to do with the head. Some people are fine just quite easily dropping back. Some of us might want to tuck the chin a little bit. Keep it tucked, space for the throat, and feel like there's length at the crown of the head. So that's fine too. Or maybe you want to send it back more. But that idea, again, with the string, from the crown of the head to the opposite side of the room. Good. Come on up. Take a pause. And we'll take it one more time if you're up for that. If you're done with back bending for today, choose any kind of counter pose, some kind of bending forward perhaps, or twisting. You'll see what you need on your way to stillness. If you're up for one more time, again, you can think about sending the buttock flesh down, drawing the elbows back, inhale, lift up, and taking the hands back. And once you get here, that's when you can start with sending the thighs, the hip points forward. When you're done, come on up, release, take your time. See where your body wants to go. Just find your own body's wisdom. I might recommend leaning forward. You see my spine's really nice and long, making a pillow for the head. Little supported child pose. Sometimes we don't want to come too far into a forward bend after an extreme back bend. Some people, it's in their practice to go back and forth, back and forth. There are different minhagim, different practices around this, actually, depending on what yoga tradition you work in. And then lastly, before we settle into a few moments of stillness, again, just to release the low back, come onto your back. Allow the knees to bend. Take the right leg up toward the ceiling. This isn't so much a big hamstring stretch as it is for neutralizing the spine after the backward extensions. Clasp hands behind the right thigh and allow the thigh to really drop into the hands. So knee can be partially bent, leg can be straight. That left leg, knee can be bent or leg can be long. You can decide what works best for you. But the main thing is really let the thigh be heavy and drop into the hands. Stabilizing the pelvis, stabilizing the low back. And then bend that right knee. Keep the hands where they are, slide them up just behind the back of the knee and give a little hug into the right knee. And then release, place the right foot down, left side. Clasp the hands. This time take the fingers one finger over so it's against your habit. And let your left thigh really drop into the leg, into the hands. Let the leg drop into the hands. We're pressing that thigh away or allowing that thigh to just really drop into the hands. Easy in the shoulders, easy in the jaw. Good, and then release. And then we're just going to come to stillness. One possibility, since you have the chair, would be to take your legs up to the back of the knee, lower legs onto the chair. Thighs are at a bit of an angle here, and then just allow the torso to be still, palms facing up. That's just one option, one choice you decide. You might like a more traditional shavasana or more like a constructive rest. So a couple minutes of quiet. And I'll sing to you a little blessing. And Jacob's blessing to his grandchildren, Ephraim and Manasseh. Sometimes you hear this. I hear it most often at a bris. This melody by A.B. Rotenberg. Malach hagoeloti, Malach hagoeloti mikol ra, yivarech et ha'arim, v'ikarev hahem shemi. Malach hagoeloti, Malach hagoeloti mikol ra, yivarech et ha'arim, v'ikarev hahem shemi. V'shem avotai, v'shem avotai, Avraham v'Yitzchak, v'yigdul larov, v'yigdul larov, b'kerev haaretz. V'shem imotai, v'shem imotai, Sora v'Rivka, v'yigdul larov, v'yigdul larov, b'kerev haaretz. Hamalach hagoeloti, Hamalach hagoeloti mikol ra, yivarech et ha'arim, v'ikarev hahem shemi. It's Genesis 48, verse 16. May the angel who has redeemed me from all harm bless the boys. In them may my name be recalled, and the names of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, and I added, and the names of my mothers, Sarah and Rebekah, and may they be teeming multitudes upon the earth. Begin to make your way up to a comfortable seat. As we close our practice, we don't hold the benefits for ourselves, but extend out the benefits that we have experienced and the blessings for the well-being of others. If there's anyone in your immediate world or even yourself who's in need of healing, taking a moment to send healing for them. anyone in your community, greater family, and to all parts of the world. And we, since October 7th here, have been singing every Monday the words from our Monday morning liturgy, Achenu kol Beit Yisrael, as we're thinking of the 100 hostages and want their release. We want them back home as soon as possible. So you can join me with the words or just listen. Achenu kol Beit Yisrael, Achyoteinu kol Beit Yisrael, Hanetunim b'tzara uvashivya, Haomdim ben bayam uven bayabasha. Hamakom yerachem aleim, v'yotziem mitzara ומאפל לאורה, ומשעבוד לגאולה, השתה בגלה ובזמן קריב. השתה בגלה ובזמן קריב, ונאמר אמן. May they be home speedily and in health. And sending our wishes, please send your blessings to all who are suffering. Those in Gaza, throughout the Middle East, in Ukraine, in Sudan, throughout the world. We send our wishes that this year, 2025, may be a better year. Just taking a moment for a few last full breaths. Complete exhales. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. Please forgive me for stealing 4 extra minutes. I hope it doesn't make you late for anything. For those that are able to stay, we'll have Q&A for another 11 minutes. And for those who are going, please join us. Please tell a friend, come back. We're here every week, more or less, and we're really a strong and beautiful community. We love practicing together. And Q&A, which I call kiddush, is the most fun sometimes of our practice, so please do stay if you can. I invite you to share any reflections, any experiences in practice, and any questions. And if you would like to ask a question, you can use the bottom toolbar under the reactions to use the hand raising. And I'll just reiterate that please take a look out for Flourish, for the course on anti-Semitism, the 3 sessions, and also parenting. And lastly, if you're thinking of a longer Shabbat retreat for yourself to really dive into yoga and to Shabbat, and you're planning ahead, I'll be at the Kripalu Center for Yoga and Health with my teacher, mentor to many of us, Rabbi Sheila Peltz-Weinberg. April 24th to 27th, we'll be studying the first 3 Sfirot during the Omer, and really enjoying ourselves with yoga and movement and text study and meditation. So please check it out. If you're looking for a retreat, Kripalu is an amazing, amazing place in Western Massachusetts. Okay, friends. Questions, reflections. Let's see, I see in the chat from Joy, is there a connection between backbends and release of emotional pain and feelings? Can you speak on that a bit? It's different for everyone, but I think, yes, backbends they really challenge us a lot to open up the heart, to open up some things that there's a lot that we keep constricted within the chest. There's so many, these intercostal muscles are so intense. If you ever have taken a moment to just like massage between your ribs, it's like, it can be like agony. There's so much that we store here and in the shoulders, all these tissues. So yes, this can be really a place for a lot of emotional opening, and it can also be really energy producing. So for instance, this wasn't your question, but just to also share, like back bends are really nice in the morning. You don't necessarily want to do them in the evening. Evening is more a time for forward folding. But yeah, we really are opening ourselves, because we also have to really work the breath a lot when we back bend, and that opens up a lot of emotion there. So I would say if you're having the experience of sensations or emotions of a lot of strong things coming up for you, to just take a moment and rest and pause before you go back to your day to ground, to ground. Judith, yeah, I have been at BJ on a Friday night where they use Hamalach HaGoalot. So they do it every single week with the children, that particular tune. Yeah, that's sweet. That's so sweet. So I imagine if you go this Friday night, they'll make a thing of it because it's in the Parsha. Yeah. What else? Questions? Thoughts? Maureen, yes, thanks for incorporating the chair. Definitely. We need to know that the yoga is not there for us to try to reach some ideal, but the poses are here to serve the needs, our needs, in any given moment with the changes and fluctuations that happen within our body. And so I'm a big fan of using props both to gain knowledge and also to just lift the floor up to us in moments, which is what the chair helped us to do in Camel. Linda Shivers.
So when I finished today, all of a sudden I noticed I've got like a little bit of a pain in the top of my leg, my left leg.
Can you explain more? Can you say more about that pain?
Well, I didn't notice it when I was doing the yoga, but when we stopped, that's when I noticed it. It seems to be going away.
You think it came from the movements that you did?
Yes.
So I would just say, like, work it out with some gentle walking, get some
Okay.
motion, and see if that helps. Just get moving, circulating, getting the blood circulating, get some warmth into the leg. Maybe it'll pass, and it could be due to any number of things, really. So just keep an eye on it.
Okay.
Sorry, that's general, but I'm not with you and I can't see you, so I don't really know exactly what it was or what might have done it. But you know, often we have things that come from our yoga, and then we have to say, okay, what happened? What did I do? Or was that here before and I'm just noticing it now? Did it come from something I did? Which action? What do I need to be more attentive with? It could be hips, it could be spine, could be lots of things. That's the beauty of our practice, is just noticing. Okay, that's interesting. The body's like a moving target. I've been thinking about that lately. It just is changing every day, every year, all the time, depending on what we engage in and the process of growing and aging. So our practice is really helpful in that way to just keep us alert and aware of what's happening. Okay, if you don't have questions for me, I'll throw out one, which is camel pose a pose you do regularly in your practice? Yeah, some yeah, one yes, many no's. And is it a pose that you have particular feelings about in one direction or the other? You have to raise your hand so I can unmute you if you want to say something. Karen? Yeah.
Oh, no, I about the camel, just I don't think of doing it regularly, so I appreciate that you did. But it's so good for this time of year, just to open up and so I think I tend to be in a class before I do it. I don't. It's not like side angles and things like that that I just sort of naturally.
Yeah, it's like
Oh,
not
thank you.
one of your go-to
Yeah,
favorites.
yeah, but it's a good one.
When I was in my 20s, it was in my practice every single day. And now I notice it's in my practice close to 0 days a week. Because
So thank you.
it's backbending's hard. Yeah, sure. Tammy, our one person who nodded yes, I practice camel often. Tell us about like your experience of the pose.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for today. This was my first time, and I've been meeting. You've been on my calendar for an embarrassing long time, and today I finally did it, and it was
Welcome.
also thank you to all of you, and I hope everyone is staying warm. Yeah, I'm very, very tall, and so I'm constantly looking for reasons to open up the shoulders and stretch the back. I am one of those people that has those lower back. It just, it gets tweaked every once in a while. So I like camel because it really does force you to think about how your body is bending and opening up. Because I'm like this in front of a computer all day long. So really, and the one thing I just got back from, not just about a month ago, I got back from a incredible yoga retreat. And so my resolution for the year is, keeping those shoulders down and back, because so
Beautiful.
often I'll end up, like over here and I'm like, why can't I hear anything? Oh, it's because my shoulders are in my ears. So I find that camel helps kind of reinforce that. So, and
Yeah, great. Um, Thanks, Tam. So glad. It doesn't matter how long this has been on your calendar. I have things that have been aspirational for 2 years, and then I finally get to them. It's like, it's great you've arrived. Bruchim habayim. Welcome. It's terrific. To your point, I have a very dear friend from childhood, and she went from being a lawyer to being a personal trainer, and she loves it. And we were having a little chat last week, and she was saying, oh, yeah, shoulder retraction, i.e., squeezing your shoulder blades toward each other, right? And anyone who's been to PT over disc issues in the neck, yeah, knows this, right? Rowing, those ones. She said shoulder retraction is the name of the game as we age. She said it's such a big one. We get so weak in those muscles. So we have to remember, in her terminology, shoulder retraction. In yoga, we often speak about, drawing the upper arm bones back. Same thing, all the same thing, but really something to think about, countering this. Yeah, great. Sherry felt that the way you did the prep poses was easier for me to move into camel. That's exactly that. Whenever I plan a class, I'm always thinking, what's the progression? What's the sequencing that's going to take us to be able to get into that pose that we want to get, right? So camel's kind of full body. We wanted to open up the shoulders, the upper body, the arms, the arms come back and around, and then you need a lot of opening for the quads and the hip flexors and such. So we just kind of went methodically through each of those. Okay, my lovelies, wishing you an excellent week. Shavua Tov. Take good care. See you next week. All the blessings as we end Bereshit and begin 2025. Kol Tuv. Sei gesund.